Did you know that they've been around for more than 2 years? Hey, 120 merchants are selling really good stuff there.
Kai, bombastic side eye.
There are more than 10,000 products.
What are you guys talking about? VitiCard! VitiCard! It's the real feel-good shopping!
Let's go, Viviana! Yeah! Let's go! Nah, I'm gonna play rugby.
I'm a girl and I play rugby. I'm a girl and I play rugby.
Bulubinaka, welcome to VitiTalks, where we are talking about International Women's Day. The theme is Inspire Inclusion, and I have two very good speakers today who are going to talk about this theme. I have with us Della, very big name in the local sporting fraternity. She's the president of Weightlifting Fiji, and I also have Kalesi Volatabu, the founder of Drug-Free World-Fiji. Della, welcome. We'll start with you. Everyone knows Della Shaw. I know you come from a very big sporting background, and we want to hear it from you. Tell us about your journey and how much you've contributed so much looking at Women's Day and into the sport of weightlifting.
Thank you, William. First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me to come and speak on this very important occasion, especially for International Women's Day, and as we remember women and their works. First of all, I just would like to introduce myself. Everyone knows who I am. I'm originally from Teilevu, Mukanimbau, and my mom is from Benga. I'm a sibling of 7, and I'm a youngest of twins. I grew up in a very strong Christian teaching. My dad was a sailor, so this empowering started from home. This teaching started from home because my dad was an engineer who was always out. So everything I saw was paved from mom. I learned a lot from that. And like you mentioned, I come from a background of sporting family. My siblings represented touch rugby and hockey. And growing up, those were my people I inspired to want to. And with that, with a strong Christian background in teaching, the principle, that took me up to where I am today. And I'm thankful very much to my parents, because the empowering the siblings, female, women, it all started from home. So that's who I am today, William.
Della, it's interesting. You spoke about your dad. Being International Women's Day, how is that upbringing brought you into a very male-dominated sport where you are the president of weightlifting?
Thank you, William. I would like to just go back to who I am today. When I came into the sport, there were men who were in the executive position. I was the only female. By the way, this male who had no clue about weightlifting, so they needed somebody that knew the sport of weightlifting. And I'm very thankful, William, to this individual, Atma Maharaj, Sikeli Tuinamwana, the late Krisi, for encouraging me, encouraging me as a female in a male-dominant sport, pushing me forward to take up this leadership role. And I'm very thankful. And with that, I am pushing forward with other female that is wanting to do the sport of weightlifting.
Thank you. Kalesi, quite contrasting with big sporting background. You also have a very interesting story as a humanitarian and founder of Drug-Free World-Fiji.
Yeah.
Just tell us about your journey.
Wow.
Yeah.
My journey, I was eldest of three, born here in Fiji. My dad's from Della, was my mom's from Kandavo. Dad was in Rata, in Laos. Mom was in Ra, so a bit of, different provinces there. So I left growing up here, domestic violence. Back in those days, in the 70s, it was really, um, growing up as a child in domestic violence and to hear your mom, being thrown in a room and all you hear is that your life changed. To me, I always question, why never one stood up? Why no one, came and rescued mom? Forget a child. Dad played rugby, so we lived and breathed rugby. Our religion was rugby. And obviously during those days, whether you win or you lose, you celebrate with a carton. After one carton, you go for another carton, go for another carton. So Dad would leave home and don't come home for 2-3 days. We lived up on the hill. If Dad stepped out of the taxi and he was standing up, it's going to be a good night. But if he fell out, we had to run and hide. So my experience with alcohol abuse and domestic violence started really early. At 13, Mum and Dad sent me to Australia. Huge culture shock. Back in the 80s, that was 87. And, growing up in a country where it's just developing, Fiji, and you go into Sydney, which was a huge, developed, Western society, everything was foreign to me. I went over on a 4 weeks visa, went to stay with family that I didn't know. I had to learn to know them. When my visa ran out, I rang Mum and Dad, can I come home? I rang Mum and Mum said, no. My whole life changed. At a 13-year-old, when your mother said, and you're in a foreign country, you can't come home, what do you do? At that impressionable age, as a young girl, you need your mother more than anything. So the family I stayed with started, the door started to go cold. They would scream at me if I was in the kitchen opening up the doors or it's in the fridge. What are you doing there? Get out. For so long that I started doing couch surfing. If anybody would open their door, if there was a room in the garage on the floor, in the, the floor in the kitchen, where it may be, as long as there was a roof over my head, that was fine. After so long, I ended up on the streets of Sydney. I lived on the street for 3 years. Why? Because I was hanging with the young people just like me. They were neglected, abandoned, unloved. But during the time, marijuana wasn't my drug of choice. Marijuana did absolutely nothing for me. So my go-to drug was crystal meth, was ice. I needed to numb the pain that I was going through. I didn't have any parents. Yeah. And I envy those who have their parents with them. But when you're on the drugs, you're distorted. Your thinking is totally warped. So I made silly decisions when I was on the, on this drug. Raped. I was homeless, trying to commit suicide a few times. But somebody helped me escape the streets at 17. Because, you know what? I always thought if I can get over 24 hours, I'm winning. Don't care about another week, don't care about a month. As long as, if I can survive 24 hours, I was fine. Yeah. But that instilled so many things for me. I didn't have great parents that showed me love, that gave me love. I learned that off the street by hustling. Yeah. 17, I, got off the street, met this guy, moved in together. But, our son was born in 1991. I just turned 18. So being a teenager mom, there was a knock at the door in the middle of the night. My baby was only 18 months old. Immigration officers were there. And I never knew why they would be there in the middle of the night. Nobody told me I needed a visa to stay in the country. Yeah. But I knew that I had to go with them. So I was handcuffed from the door, escorted to the nearest police station, fingerprinted, strip searched, and put in a cell. Got on my hands and knees and I prayed. I was only 18. And I prayed, Lord, if you help me out of this mess, I promise that I will give my life for one young child not to go through what I went through. Yeah. 3 days later, I got transferred to Villawood Detention Center. And I walked through the gates, the barbed wires, and I thought, when I left Fiji 5 years ago, I never pictured myself to be behind bars. What did I do that was so wrong? But I promise, if I was just given a little inch, I will milk it for what it's worth and give back. Yeah. You know what? I don't look at it as, I don't have any regrets. Those were all opportunities. My story, that's my story. I have to own that. It took me a while to acknowledge and own what I went through because what I spoke about are those taboo subjects that we don't openly talk about here in Fiji. whether it be domestic violence, whether it be alcohol abuse, whether it be suicide, whether it be rape, yeah, all those mental health issues, yeah. But I stand here and I thought, you know what, it's only by the grace of God that I'm standing on this side of the fence and not behind bars, but 6 foot under.
So inspiring, Kalesi. Thank you so much for that. Also, Della, adding on to what Kalesi has said, what inspires you, to do what you do, being in a male-dominated industry, if you could, for so long?
The sport of weightlifting was founded in 1905. It was only till the year 2000 when women was recognized to represented in the Olympic Games. So for that long, the first women to get onto the stage was in Sydney, the Olympic Games. And that's when weightlifting also was just being introduced into the Pacific. And what drove me was, it's funny by saying that, I started with athletics. So weightlifting was a sport that I needed to look for as part of my training. And going into weightlifting, when I was identified by the coaches, I said no, and I said, I don't want to, just that perspective, myself, my own perspective was, I don't want to go into a male sport. And then through the awareness by the coaches in telling me that I needed to do this, I needed to do more training, and then slowly, then they got me into the sport of weightlifting. But more so for me, now as a president, for me is the satisfaction of seeing more women represented in this sport. I would like to see more women. That gives me the satisfaction.
Thank you, Della. Kalesi, back to you. International Women's Day emphasizes the achievements of women.
Yeah.
Now, you've spoken about the journey where you are now. Could you reflect back on a milestone achievement in your career? You spoke about advocating against drugs.
Yeah.
How's that been
So,
for you?
when I went from Villawood Detention Centre and then I got my permanent residency in Australia, I thought, wow, I'm going to milk this. The first thing I did when I got released into the community, I started, my first certificate was in engineering, sandblasting and powder coating. Why? I've lived the streets, man. I know how to roll. Yeah. I know how to struggle. So obviously it was a male-dominating field, but I loved it. I love wearing those boots, those overalls, those masks, and sandblasting metal. Then, Queensland TAFE gave me the opportunity to go travel throughout remote areas of Queensland telling girls it's cool to wear boots. If that's the field you want to do, why not? The sky's the limit. And for me, everything was an opportunity that was given to me. Why can't I do it? And I learned really early on, if you tell me I can't do it, man, I will show you how I'll do it, and I'll do it with flair. And that has been with me all the way through. From being the engineer, and then I went to corrective services in 1998, working probation parole, and that was working in a male prison, serious offenders. Yeah, and I loved it. When I stepped into this prison, it was a maximum security prison, I felt so much at home. Why? Because they were like my brothers. They were my brothers when I was on the street. It's only by the grace of God that I'm on this side of the fence. If I can get out of what I went through, why can't they? There is no excuse whatsoever. So that's what I did. And then police had hunted me, offered me a position. I thought, you know what? Why not? Just keeping in mind, I lived on the street. I left when I was 13. All those things that I went through. Police had hunted me, gave me a position, and that was working with young offenders committing armed robbery throughout New South Wales. Loved all the young people that I was crossing paths with. This program that I put together won the award in New South Wales in Sydney in 2003. Then I went on to work with the public guarding, public trustee. Then I went to, as a prison officer, working with male, as a prison officer, in uniform. So as a commissioned officer, you take an oath to protect the community and everything else. So for me, it was another learning, because I just love the experiences that I was getting. And all these is working in behind bars. And then from there, I went to a remand center that was working with 1,400 male prisoners, and I was in charge of education and program. For me, it was studying the trend and see what was happening. How do I stop the recidivism of 30% of those coming back in? How do you stop the revolving door? That was literally studying the trend, creating program, implementing, and actually showing statistically this is how you can do it. Then I went to as the executive director of drug and alcohol rehab. All those experience took, even though I lived in Australia for over 30 years, those were my work experience. But the community experience was far more than what I could imagine. And that was literally advocating, fighting the Australian government for changes of the legislation for our people, our Fijian or the Pacific diaspora. That's another story for another day. But I have enjoyed that journey. So when I came to Fiji in 2018 and I was invited to come and help the country because we had a drug problem, and I thought, really? Do we really have a drug problem? And they said, we did. So I didn't come back till 2019. And man, when I found out how bad the problem here in Fiji, I thought I was in a different world. This is not the Fiji that I remember. What I remember is Fiji in 1987, where the world should be. Friendly island. There were the most warmest people in the Pacific. But after doing some research, going in, talking to people, and the thing is, Fiji is very patriotic. So if you're a woman, and like me, I was more of a Western, Aussie, as you'd say, Western. I've lived overseas a lot longer than I've lived here. So obviously I was, up against the boys' club. And especially when you're talking about drug, how complex the issue is, whether it be because of legislation, because of the government system, whatever it may be. You literally have to sit there and, okay, how do you negotiate this? How do you strategically play your cards right? Yeah, for everybody to start speaking the same thing. So you asked the question, what are some of the milestones? The biggest thing in 2019, nobody talked openly about drugs in this country. The government never acknowledged that we had a drug problem here. So the advocating, championing, and literally just going on media, telling everybody, this is the problem, this is what we're having, going to the people, bringing those voiceless back and actually just letting everybody know we do have a problem. I sit back now, 2024, and I turn on the TV. Do you know how much that actually meant for me? How warm it is for my heart to actually turn on the TV and you hear the president, the prime minister, and all the other ministers saying, we do have a drug problem here in this country. Yeah, to get to that point, that's the biggest win that I could ever hope for.
All right, thank you, Kalesi and Della, and that brings us to the end of the first segment. So we'll take a break for now, but please stay with us. We'll be back more after the break.
Wait! Did you know that they've been around for more than 2 years? 120 merchants are selling really good stuff there.
Kai, bombastic side eye.
There are more than 10,000 products.
What are you guys talking about? VitiCard! VitiCard! It's the real feel-good shopping.
Let's go, Viviana! Yeah! Let's go! Nah. I'm gonna play rugby.
I'm a girl and I play rugby.
I'm a girl and I play rugby.
Welcome back. We are on VitiTalks and we're talking about International Women's Day, Inspire Inclusion. And I'm with Della, the president of Fiji Weightlifting, and also the humanitarian and founder of Drug-Free World-Fiji, Kalesi Volatabu. Kalesi, in the first segment, you spoke about the interesting drug problem we have in Fiji.
Yeah.
Just enlighten us more on this issue.
So if we look back, everybody talks about drug, but nobody could clearly articulate what sort of drugs we're talking about. So when we came in 2019, everyone would just say, everybody knows what green is. Right, so green marijuana. Then when they say white, nobody knew what exactly is white they're talking about. What is everybody talking about? So if you go back, 1800 is when alcohol came into the country during the European, they were exchanging bottle of rum for a land. So that was our first taste of alcohol during that time. And then obviously 1879 was the Indian dentures, which is the marijuana. Then we go 1978, heroin. Heroin, 15 kilos was seized at Nandi Airport in 1978. I didn't know heroin was in this country that earlier on. Yeah. Then you look at 2000, we had 351 kilos of heroin was seized here in this country. Makes you wonder why all these drugs are in this country. How easy is it to actually get it into the country? Then you look at 2004, we had the largest meth bust in the country, Southern Hemisphere. We were cooking that here. We had the cartel cooking it here in this country. And that was 1 ton back in 2004. That's like 20 years ago. So over the years, we've had all different drugs here in this country. And then the cartels, they were already here before it. When we came in 2019, there was a lot of whispers, but nobody would articulate what exactly is that, or who are these people, who's who in the take and everything else. We found all that out through, going out and doing outreach, going to the community, going to the schools. As we look back now, we've direct delivered to over 150,000 people with no funding. It is a sheer conviction to saying, giving back to the community, serving the community, making a change here in Fiji. We want a drug-free Fiji. How do we do that? How do you fight against the cartel when you're a small country? For me, learning full well, being able to be the advocate I was in Australia, the humanitarian, how to fight, how do you inspire the whole people to stand up together and say, you know what, we can do this, but we need to do it together, not in silo, which we have been doing for quite a long time. And that's how it's been so easy for the cartel to embed into it. Right now, we have container loads that come through Fiji because it's so easy to ship this and transit these drugs through to New Zealand, Australia, or even America for that matter. Australia International were the market, but now, as you look back, no, we have the market right here in this country, but we don't have the social system to cater for this. We don't have a drug and alcohol rehab in the country. Yeah. What I try to do is, I can do so much. That's a little I can, but you know what? We can't do it on our own. Everybody has a role to play. So with us doing drug awareness for the last 4 or 5 years, whereas now we're focusing on training other people to take ownership for their own community, their own villages. Yes, to go out and giving them the tool. You can do this. You want be the change? You know what? We'll meet you halfway because we certainly cannot do it ourselves.
Thank you so much, Kalesi. Della, connecting the two with weightlifting, drugs as a whole, sports as a whole with drugs. Is this something you also face in the sporting arena?
Yes, William. Drugs in sports is huge. That is one massive implication if you are caught in taking drugs. It was just in 2021 when the IF was implicated by the IOC for the corrupt practice of the use of drugs. And that is when the whole countries were implicated. Now there are systems that have been put in place, very strict systems. And what I love about this, it's been 17 years in the Pacific, weightlifting has been drug-free. No one's been tested positive for drugs and the use of drugs through weightlifting. And this is something that we are doing for weightlifting. The system that they have put in place is that each athlete will be put into this awareness pool, which is called the ADAMS. And every athlete must be updated every 3 months. And every 3 months, they can knock into your door, they don't tell you, and they say, we are testing you for drugs, whether you're sleeping or whether you are having lunch or whether you're training, you must continue to update the system to say where you are or where you're competing. So the awareness for weightlifting, it goes right, when an athlete comes into the sport, the induction goes straight into the parents. And even whatever they are taking in terms of medication, we need to know. So the parents are well aware of this. And what we tell them is, if you are caught with taking marijuana, or if you are taking drugs, the implication is 50,000 US dollars. So we tell the parents, we are safeguarding you and us in making this awareness. So drugs in sports is huge, but for weightlifting is much more, because the fine is much more because of the implication of the IOC to the IF. So these systems have really guarded the sport. And when somebody walks into weightlifting, what we just love the fact that if you're taking drugs, you'll be caught out. So, I just love the fact that, the awareness out right from the parents to the kids, and they just enjoy it. And we know, the only way we know that they're taking drugs if they're tested positive. And so it's so working well for us. So every athlete that walks through that door is in that system.
I've got one each last questions for both of you. So Della, I'll pass this to you. Just as a very established individual as president of weightlifting, what's the message to aspiring females and males as well? How to maintain such an image for such a long time, with the theme of Inspire Inclusion of International Women's Day?
Thank you, Willem. I would like to send out this message for leaders that are already in this role, especially women and male, in identifying these roles. And I said this in my last interview a few years ago, that women cannot wait to be identified. You need to put up your hand and say, I can do this. You cannot sit back anymore. Those days are gone. And we need to continue the collaboration, the awareness, the education on not only, as we talk about international women, we talk about equal representative. And what I really like about, if I just take us back to the IOC, they are the one that's pushing equal representative. If there's a sport that wants to go into the Olympic Games, if it's a male sport, they must see that women are representative. If it's a women's sport, they must have male representative also. So the leaders that are taking this leadership role, please you need to identify and go and take on the collaboration and educating on these issues.
Thank you, Della. Kalesi, your final message before we wrap up today.
You know what, when I came back to Fiji knowing full well the taboo subjects that we don't openly talk about, for me, I just hope my story could inspire someone to to stand up, take the stand, get out there and actually share. Because I remember, part of my healing was actually owning what I went through, acknowledging what it is and knowing what I'm worth. Yeah. Always when we talk about inspiring women, and that's what it is, and it's quite hard, very rare to find strong women that would openly stand up and share the ugliness and everything that they've gone through. Because, there's this stigma that we hide behind and the fear of being shamed and everything else. But I'm telling you, through my weakness, that's where I found the strength to stand up and actually help somebody else. The other one is about inclusivity. How do we bring that for us? Drugs does not discriminate. It does not care what gender you are, what religious group you are, what marital status you are, what, financial status and what job, whatever it may be. Everybody is affected by this. When we came in 2019, majority of our work is in Viti level. And we thought, you know what, we've never really went out, So I decided to go and live in the village. Why in the village? In Fiji, there's 3 pillars that pulls people together. The most important one is the vanua. How do I make an impact from the grassroots, from the village? It's like I needed to immerse myself into that and say, you know what? Women in the village have a voice. How do we capture those voices? How do we give them the platform? For me, I'm not just about talk. Don't waste my time if we're just going to have a discussion, because I don't have time for that. Yeah. For me, I show you the action. It is through those actions that actually will inspire people. So For me, whoever it may be listening right now, a mom or a dad, one thing that I need to stress, when it's International Women's Day, somebody's mother, somebody's grandmother, somebody's aunt, somebody's sister has been affected by this. How many more women do we have to lose because of the drugs, the substance abuse in this country? And all those dads that's listening, man, all kids want a great role model. You as a father, you are their first role model before they look anywhere else. And as a child, everybody loves their dad. So whatever action that father might have to be, please, before you say anything, because those words harm, before you before you use violence or what action you may do, just think of those actions. What consequences, what ripple effect that will do to that person in front of you. So, yeah, for me, it's, how do you inspire? Inclusivity doesn't matter who you are, because we're talking about drugs and people's lives, they matter. Yes. In Fiji, why not a drug-free G?
Kalesi and Della, we've run out of time, but I thank you both very much for coming here to the VitiTalks. Della, all the best with Weightlifting Fiji. Kalesi, all the best. You're such a fighter. Keep fighting, and we'll be with you all the way. Thank you for doing such great advocacy for drug-free World Fiji. And that's today's VitiTalks with the theme of Inspire Inclusion. Happy International World Women's Day.
Let's go, Viviana! Yeah! Let's go! Nah, I'm gonna play rugby.
I'm a girl and I play rugby. I'm a girl and I play rugby. Wait!
Did you know that they've been around for more than 2 years?
Wait!
120 merchants are selling really good stuff there.
Kai, bombastic side eye.
There are more than 10,000 products. What are you guys talking about?
VitiCard! VitiCard! It's the real feel-good shopping!